right. So happy Tuesday, everybody. Happy April 1st. And I'm gonna refrain from doing any kind of April Fools today. It might seem very in character for me to do that, but I'm gonna resist. It is Tuesday, April 1st at 9 a.m. First quarter of the year is gone. Wow, where did it go? How did it get out of our lives so quickly? So we're starting quarter two here with high touch phone. And of course, what we do is we talk about the power of calling people that we already know to add buyers and sellers to our pipeline. Um, First of all, I want to commend everyone who has put their numbers into the spreadsheet. Putting your numbers into the spreadsheet is half the battle. If you're not, and I know Kelly Poe is in there right now putting her numbers in. But here are the folks that put their numbers in this week. Melissa Balco amazingly put her numbers in for the week. We've got Jasmine Galloway. Not only is she driving to work, I hope we didn't lose her. Not only is she, no, she's still there. Not only is she driving to work speeding, she put her numbers in. Kelly Poe is putting her numbers in as we speak. Heather Swift got her numbers in. Nick Toby got his numbers in. So I am very, very thrilled at everybody that took time to put their numbers in. Brandon, where are your numbers, man?
I will have
Can
them there for Wednesday meeting.
Okay, all right, great, fantastic. Um, so that's the first thing I want to talk about. We're going to go around the room and you talk about one or both things. You can either talk about a call that you had that went really well, or kind of just the general, this is how calls went for me this week, or you can talk about something or the things you did for your core 25 group. Or you can talk about both of them if you want. I'll go first. I'm going to specifically talk about my core 25. I have all of my personal notes written out to everybody. I am ready to pop all of those in the mail. Of course, there are going to be business cards with those as well. And for those of you that are maybe new to the program, our core 25 is the 25 people that we think can give us 2 to 4 referrals a year. And what we're going to do is every quarter, we're going to do something special for them. We're going to buy them something, we're going to spend time with them, or we're at least going to send them a personal note. And of course, these core 25 people are people that we're going to call at least once a month. If someone's going to give you 4 transactions in a year, I hope to God you would call them at least once a month. So I'm doing a lot of personal notes. I actually went camping with 4 of my core 25 people last weekend, so I did that. So Heather, you're the next one in my little rogues gallery here. Talk about whatever you want to talk about.
So I have everything out to send for the core 25, but I actually came up with more that I really wanted to send. So those are ready to go out as well.
Okay.
So there will be an additional 10. So a total of 35. One person is really kind of my go-to. She was just a buyer in Nichols. She works at a casino. She knows everybody on earth, from very multimillionaires to, FHA buyers, which is great. But is always sending me leads. So her and I have a date night together.
Great.
Of course, I have to go see her puppies first.
Right, right. All right, that sounds great. Brandon, how about you?
Yeah, same, working on getting some letters out. Had some good interactions with agents last week. Actually connected with one that recently got my information, kind of newer in the business, and had already sent me a referral. So I'm planning on reaching out to them to connect. So yeah, I think it's a little bit slower week, but definitely had some positives as well.
All right, that's good. And what about Melissa Balco?
Well, um, yeah. What about Melissa Falco? I have been, well, I actually had a busy week last week as far as like listing appointments and things like that. So, not a whole heck of a lot other than planning things for Core 25. I thought of a couple activities that I'm gonna try to do as more of like like I thought of one that really would be better in the fall and one that I think will be good in the spring. So I'm trying to kind of plan that. I'm going to do it like a little thing that people can come to.
Okay. All right. That sounds great. Jasmine, how about you?
I had some good calls. I had actually a really good talk in person while I was at work. Um, I didn't get any leads this week, which was a little upsetting, but I'm gonna keep pushing.
Yep. And remember, it's not about getting a lead every week. Getting a lead every week is fantastic. But it's not about that, because if you allow, in my opinion, if you allow yourself to think that way, then it becomes, well, if I don't get X, I'm not going to do Y anymore. And the strength of this is us doing it week over week, regardless of what the result is. You don't have to worry about the result. It's proven. If you do this, you will get results. So really don't look at this as a week over week thing. You've got to look at this as what's going to happen over the course of a year. Kelly Poe, what about you?
Okay, yes. Thank you for the encouragement of looking at it over a year thing, because the week to week does kind of stand in our faces. So thank you for that. I had a good conversation with Jasmine this week. Figured that I'm going to make connections with everybody that's on the call,
Great.
so that we can do that. I do have my Core 25. I did get a referral from actually got two referrals, one last week, one this week, from Core 25 people. One of them was a forever client. Their parents are moving, so I got the buyer consultation with that one. And then an attorney. So I'm probate certified. So my goal is on my calendar to network twice a week with either attorneys, some type of allied resource, so that way I can get those people in my pipeline as well. And she referred me to a seller that I'm meeting with on Thursday.
Terrific. That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And Jasmine, just going back to you for a second, I went through your data, and you've gotten 5, 6, 7 leads from doing this process. And that's your own data, that's your own numbers. So, it works. It works. So just stick with it. Little piece of news, then we're going to go into the Brandon part of this show. I have just started a YouTube channel specifically for high touch phone coaching. If you guys have a chance, I would love for you to subscribe and also ring that bell, which makes sure you see every single one of my videos when you go on to YouTube. I'm going to try to add to this on a weekly basis. My first video is about that little Facebook birthday hack that I do. It's great to wish somebody a happy birthday, but this technique actually forces you onto their news feed. So, if you have a listing, and you put it on Facebook, people may or may not see it. If you wish them a happy birthday, they will see that listing, almost guaranteed. So watch the video for more information. Okay, so I asked Brandon to come on. And the reason I asked Brandon to come on is I wanted to talk about HELOCs, which he's going to talk about what that is in a second. I myself have actually just opened a HELOC at our brand or at our bank. And the reason I want him to talk about this is it's another thing that we can talk about to our sellers when we're making our phone calls. And the specific challenge right now is home prices are going to start dropping. Okay. So I have data right here. This is national data. And it is showing, if you look at this purple line, if you can see it, the purple line, which is home prices today, are basically tied exactly with where home prices were last year. So that's piece of information one. That's telling me that home prices are slowing down. Because up to this point, the news has been home prices are going up, home prices are going up. I think 2025 is the year that home prices are going to level off. Adding to that is this year, 2025, from the very beginning. Well, no, actually, this just happened. It crossed over just a second ago. This March is seeing more home price cuts than we've seen in over a decade. And we don't have to be geniuses to know what that means is prices are starting to head down. Prices that were attractive last year are less so this year. So if 2025 is the year where home prices start to head down, there are some homeowners who have no intention of selling, but we want to talk to them anyway because they know people that might have to sell and buy. But if homeowners know that this is the most their house is going to be worth, and they want to tap into some of that equity, the problem, of course, is that interest rates aren't really doing us any favors. They are nowhere near where interest rates were over the past 5 years. They are probably locked in at a low rate we will never see again. So how do they get to that money? Brandon is going to tell us how they get to that money.
JD, before Brandon starts, are you going to share those slides with us? Those are pretty powerful.
Yeah, I can send those to you.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Brandon, take it away.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So yeah, JD asked me to talk about HELOCs, or known as home equity lines of credit. So it's definitely a very popular program for borrowers, and there's a lot of good uses for it as well. Now this can vary from lender to lender on like some of the terms that are offered, but I'm just going to kind of go through at least what the credit union has, and I would assume that it's going to be very consistent. But so we can look at doing a home equity loan on somebody's, let's say, primary residence, and we can finance up to 90% of the value of the home. So meaning that, just for simplicity's sake, you know, if somebody has a home that's worth $100,000, we can do effectively a line of credit up to 90% of that, or 90,000 minus any current lien they have. So if they have a first mortgage at a $50,000 balance, let's say, then we subtract that from the 90 to leave us with 40,000, so they can get up to a $40,000 line of credit. So they can use that for multiple uses. And I was trying to think back about all the different ways that I've used this before, and how, you know, it would be relevant for you as agents to kind of, as a tool to approach, you know, tentative sellers. So some, you know, sellers may think, you know, my house isn't ready, I need to do some renovations or updates. Well, unfortunately, that can be very costly. And there's other programs out there, borrowers can get home improvement loans, etc. But from a rate perspective, a home equity loan generally has much more favorable rates than a personal or unsecured loan. So that's a way someone can tap into their equity on the home, and they can do some home improvements on their property to get it geared ready to put it on the market to be sold. Tentatively, they may use that for debt consolidation as well. So maybe borrowers are a little stretched thin. Maybe they went a little crazy getting a lot of debts, maybe some high payment car loans or credit cards. Maybe they use the credit cards for home improvements. We want to consolidate them together into a lower monthly payment. We've used that in the past to help get borrowers what's known as their debt ratios in line to qualify tentatively for a new purchase, specifically if they're doing a non-sale contingency, which segues me into my next kind of usage for it is more of a bridge loan. So depending on the market, it may not be advantageous for a borrower to try to put an offer in contingent on the sale of their home just because of the competitive nature of some of the areas that I lend in and people are buying in. So they might need to retain their current home, but they need that equity, that they've built up over the years. They need that to leverage to purchase a new home. Well, assuming that maybe they can, retain that balance, their current mortgage, we can do a home equity loan against the equity in their current residence to help them buy a new home. Then when they sell their other home after their purchase, then they just pay off their first mortgage that they have one, and then that line of credit as well. And then kind of the last idea I came up with that I've used in the past is, borrowers that want to get into the investment market, they want to purchase rental properties and rental units. So they could ideally look to do a consumer a conventional loan or a commercial loan, but they could also use leverage of properties that they own, take home equities out against them to buy a new rental property, maybe sometimes in cash. If they have enough equity, they can just buy a rental property in cash, or they could purchase a property that they're using to flip. So maybe they're buying a home, they're going to keep it short term, just do some renovations themselves, and then turn around and sell it for profit. A line of credit's a great way to do something like that because it's a line of credit. It's something where they can repeatedly use it. So I kind of spin it similar to a credit card in a way where, you have a balance on a card. And then as you use that card, you use that line of credit, the availability goes down. But as you pay it back, that's reopened to you to reutilize. Our program specifically for our fixed rate HELOCs, we call them free locks, fixed rate home equity line of credit. They can draw for that up to 3 years. So they can utilize that for 36 months. And then after the 36-month period, it just goes into pure repayment. So basically the line's frozen and goes to repayment. But at that 3-year mark, a borrower can choose to reapply or basically reopen that utilization for another 3 years. So if they wanted to rinse and repeat it, they certainly can. But offhand, those were kind of the good uses that I've used in the past for borrowers to help them qualify or to get them cash for improvements. If they're looking to update their house, or maybe unfortunately they just can't find a property they're happy with, so they want to do some renovations or add an addition. That's something they can do with that.
Yeah, so everybody in the room knows, so Brandon is a loan originator for Corning Credit Union. Brandon, what states are you licensed in?
So for mortgage specifically, I can do New York, Pennsylvania, Maryland, North, South Carolina, and Florida for a mortgage. But when it comes to home equity, we can do almost every state.
Okay. All right. So maybe maybe Brandon's the guy you call for this. And I want to put this into terms that makes it clear for everybody. So I call one of my homeowners and I say, hey, Greg, great news. Your home not only has held its value over the 5 years since you bought it, your home is actually worth $60,000 more than it was when you bought it. And Greg, who is a bit of a pessimist, says, well, fat load, that's going to do me, JD, because number one, I'm not moving. So I really can't do anything with that 60,000. And if I wanted to get to that 60,000, I'd have to refinance, so I can't touch it. As a good educated agent, this is the moment you jump in and say, well, wait a minute, Greg, didn't you know you can tap into that 60,000 without even touching your current mortgage? Because I know you don't want to get rid of that 4% mortgage. And Greg says, I didn't know that was possible. Never, ever assume that your client knows things that you think they should know. Because quite honestly, until my wife and I got our HELOC last year, I really didn't understand how it worked either. So let's reboot the conversation. Now Greg is going to sell his house. Greg, I'm so excited. Your house is worth $60,000 more. You're going to make a ton of money on the sale. Is there anything you're concerned about as we get this thing ready to go? And he says, well, our upstairs bathroom's a shit show. And it really should be redone. But I'll tell you what, JD, I don't have any kind of cash to be able to do it. And of course, Brandon has given us the solution to it. And let's reboot the conversation again. Now Greg wants to buy a fixer-upper. So he wants to buy a nice little fixer-upper on the south side. He wants to, he wants to go in with a low offer. So he's going to offer $50,000, but it's going to be, he'd like to do it cash. Well, the HELOC is going to allow him to free up that $50,000. So he actually can make a cash offer. And by the way, that also solves the fixer-upper getting insured issue that we're going to start running into more and more. Does anybody have any questions for Brandon as far as how a HELOC works, et cetera, et cetera? It is what we used to call a second mortgage until, the public decided that second mortgage wasn't a real great term. It kind of, no one likes a second mortgage, but everybody loves a HELOC.
Brandon, so with the home equity line of credit, if someone takes that out, when do they start repaying it? After the 36 months or as they've taken it out already?
Good question. So again, that could vary from lender to lender, but specifically with our loans, they make payments on it immediately, just standard principal and interest. And the nice thing is there's no penalty if they don't utilize it. So maybe they haven't opened and they want it for future use, or they're planning on doing renovations. Maybe when the weather turns nice, maybe they're doing siding, but they want to start getting that process done now. So they only make payments on it when they pull the money off of it, but it is standard principal and interest, which is good for them as well, because as they're making those principal payments and tackling that principal, it gives them back that availability so they can reuse it again. Just the difference with where that 36 months comes into play is they just can't pull more money off of the line of credit. It's just frozen, and then it just kind of stays in repayment, but they're just paying back whatever that frozen balance is.
Yeah, and so correct me if I'm wrong, Brandon, but okay, so we want to do a kitchen renovation. We get the HELOC. We're not getting a chunk of money. We can basically go to Lowe's and we can buy a bunch of stuff at Lowe's, and I can be like, holy crap, all this stuff is costing us $8,000. I guess we're going to pull it from the HELOC. And that's the moment where we start making our monthly payment, correct?
Yes, yep. So that's the nice thing is, yeah, you have that freedom. And what I try to tell borrowers is, especially when they're looking to do home improvements, again, I think JD, you had mentioned, let's say somebody's got 50,000 in equity, but they're like, well, it's only going to really cost me 30,000 to do this work. I usually say, well, do you maybe want to go to 40 or go to 50? It doesn't hurt you to open the line for more if you don't use it. If you end up only needing 30,000, you're only paying that 30 back. However, if you end up needing more money because stuff costs more than you thought it would, or when you start getting into the project, you always find more stuff that is needed, you have that equity, because it would really stink for a borrower if you only opened a $30,000 line of credit realizing you need more, then you have to reapply and go through the motions again. It's pretty quick and painless. However, it's a lot harder, especially if it's you're on the weekend, you're trying to buy stuff and then you're tapped out on that. So yeah, I always recommend to my borrowers, if they can, just fluff it up a bit, because if you don't use it, you're not penalized. You're only paying on, similar to a credit card, you're only paying on the balance that you use.
Yeah, and true story, I just asked my wife yesterday to pull an extra 1,000 from the HELOC because we went to Lowe's and we bought a bunch of stuff, and then we needed to have a furnace repair as well. So we went ahead and cash is a little short right now. So we pulled it from the HELOC. Anybody else have any other questions? I personally think this is an incredibly powerful tool that we need to talk to people about more. And then we become more than the real estate agent that always bugs people to find buyers and sellers from them. We are a person that can educate people over time. And talking about where interest rates are is an important thing, especially when somebody has a mortgage that they feel they're locked in at less than 4, and the equity of their house is trapped because of that. It's not trapped. Any other questions, guys?
So the interest rate, is it above what the market interest rate is if you do a HELOC? So if the regular rate for everybody based on credit is 7%, would they pay like a premium percent because of this?
So for the rates on the home equity loans are, I think if I answer your question correctly, so they are generally higher than a traditional mortgage would be.
Okay, yeah.
But it's not too much more. It's still much better than it would be for, again, a personal loan or a home improvement style loan. Some lenders, they do a tier. It's called risk-based pricing. Basically, the lower or the higher your credit, the higher the rates can be. So there can be some influx depending on where your credit scores are. But to JD's point, it's still better than doing, refinancing the mortgage to get cash out, because there's generally more costs and fees with a mortgage. Because the nice thing with the home equity loans with us as well is they don't pay the closing costs on that. They're pretty minimal anyway, but as a lender, we pay them on behalf of the borrower when they're doing it on their primary home. The only stipulation is and rule that we have is if they pay off and close the line of credit within that 36-month period, then they have to reimburse us the costs. However, I do remind my borrowers that it's only if they close the line of credit. So if you pay off the line of credit to 0 within the first year, let's say, but then you have the loan open for another 2, so you have it open for the full 3 years, but you don't use it again, it'll automatically close at that 36 months, and then there's no penalties or fees to you. And the costs are really low anyway, but yeah, it's a great tool. And to JD's point, I mean, I talk about this multiple times a day. It's very powerful for what borrowers use. And then I guess just to kind of second what JD mentioned, that, I know I'm in a different situation because, I'm kind of the lending guy, but I've had a lot of success with borrowers over the years that I've done their mortgages with. I mean, that's primarily what I do day in and day out. But because of, the service I provide, the knowledge, always trying to seek and find somebody the answers, when somebody needs a car loan or anything else, they reach out to me for that information because I'm just the guy who knows things. So I'm usually at the top of borrowers' minds. So I'll get people from years ago that reach out just because of how I was helpful in the beginning, and they just want to reach out to me. So for you to use that as a resource where, hey, I know more, I can get you the guy or get you the person to talk through, you're that resource center when someone has questions, then, they should hopefully think of you first to reach out. And then that would give you the first contact to help with, any of their financing needs or, real estate needs, basically.
Yep, true story. All right, I'm going to give everybody a preview of, and Heather, I'm going to call on you next. I'm going to give everybody a preview of what the homework for next week is going to be. Next week, we're going to be doing 30 calls, 30 dials, but 10 of those are going to be asking people, do you know what a HELOC is? So start noodling through that now. And by the way, that means that you can leave a voicemail that says, hey, John, I just wanted to touch base with you. I wanted to make sure you knew what a HELOC loan was that allows you to tap into your home equity line of credit. Give me a call back if you want to know more about that. So that's what we're going to be doing next week. Not this week. You can do it this week if you want. I have no control over you guys. Next week. Heather, what did you want to ask?
I was just gonna piggyback on Brandon's comment. So when I went and I had to purchase a new vehicle, the first person, because we actually had a HELOC with Brandon not too long ago, I needed a vehicle, right? And the first person I thought of, because Brandon was so great to me, I'm like, all right, Corning Credit Union. I need to contact Brandon. And he handled everything. It was so seamless. So it worked. So when he says that, I can attest for it.
Great. Fantastic. All right. Brandon, thank you so much for doing this. Brandon's going to do a repeat of this on our Wednesday at 1 p.m. meeting as well. So if you want a second dose of this, that would be the opportunity. This was a perfect session. So I am definitely going to put the recording of this session on the spreadsheet. So if somebody wants to review it,
Lead on it and
does anybody else have anything else they want to ask, et cetera, et cetera?
Nope.
Otherwise, we're going to go into calling club. If anyone wants to hang out and make calls with me, Melissa, Brandon, do you have something else?
Nope.
Melissa?
Nope. Nope. I'm good.
All right. Listen, you guys have a fantastic week. Let's do our calls this week. Remember, you guys are doing more than the majority of other agents in your market center or your office. And that reminds me, I want to talk about the homework. So the homework for this week, which is always posted on the Facebook group, you're going to do 25 dials, and I would like you to invite one realtor to join the group, and I'm happy to give them a free 5-week trial. So find someone you like, whether they're in your market center or not. You don't even have to like them. It would help though. Find someone that you would like to get hooked up with the group on a free 5-week trial. All right, everybody, have a fantastic time. Hopefully you will hang out with us and make calls, and I will see you all again soon.
Bye.